Outplayed.
Yeah, that was a very straightforward macro game. The hacking accusation is quite funny, quite amusing. Let's watch it, just for fun, just so people understand kind of what was going on. Because sometimes it's hard for people to swallow when they get outplayed. They feel like if they have some edge, then that edge should allow them to win. They did have the edge of upgrades for most of the game, but their edge was a carapace upgrade, which isn't very good in Roach versus Roach, because only the front line of your roaches is taking damage. Let's go over this game. This is a good game to analyze because it was a fairly straightforward Roach versus Roach matchup. I was trying pretty hard, so I wasn't giving a lot of commentary. But we'll look at the units tab for most of the game to see kind of who had more of what. Units tab is going to be best when you're going over mirror matchups, because the units function in the same way. The exceptions would be the upgrades that are used. So we open with a hatch first, they open with a pool first. That's about a 100 mineral advantage for the hatch first player. I take a gas, and they take a gas a little bit later. So I have a very slight advantage from the opening build order stage. And we both see early on that it's vertical spawn. Digital Z wanted to thank you for the post on Team Liquid with the replay pack. Awesome. Cheers, dude. Yeah, I'm aware that the Team Liquid community is like really appreciative of content, so I'll try and post my future replay packs there. I haven't done that in the past, but it seems like they're nice people who are always on the lookout for good stuff. Okay, so every time someone has a worker advantage, that's of note. So I have a 1 worker lead for this stage here, and then it evens out again. Another thing to consider is the defense expenditures of the 2 players, how much they defend. The player who's more greedy is going to have a clear advantage. So here, I take a drone lead, and the opponent makes 4 roaches. Anytime you make units, those are committed to accomplishing something. So this does make the opponent safe against Ling Bane attacks, but these roaches can't really do much damage to me because I have a spine and I can make speed links and I could potentially pull my queens. So these aren't a really big threat, and by seeing these roaches this early, I cancelled my Bane Nest and made a Roach Warren. So I used a Ling Scout at one point to see this, and then I changed my tech pad. Going for a Bane Nest isn't really going to help me very much against this. So here I have a huge drone lead. All of these like small economy advantages add up a lot over the course of the game, but they were basically invisible to this particular opponent. So later on they might feel frustrated and confused as to where they fell behind, but they're actually really far behind right now. This is 11 drones behind, 12 drones behind. They're taking 2 evos, but they only get value from 1 of them. So this evolution chamber is 1 drone that could have been mining resource this whole time and keeping them from being quite this far behind. This second gas here doesn't make a lot of sense. Where are they spending it? Okay, now they take their other upgrade. Yeah. So they go 1-1 before lair. That's pretty reasonable. Their strongest point to take fights in Roach versus Roach is going to be at 2-2, because that's going to be the biggest advantage. They'll have value of 2 Carapace upgrades as an edge. So here, I have a Ling Scout for when they take this base, and I have a Ling Scout here holding the Watchtower where I can see when they take the gold. It's true that they could take a hidden base like over here or over here, but with these Overlords and the Ling Vision, I would be able to see the drones that were transferred to those outer bases. Okay, so they droned a little bit more. This is actually oversaturated a little bit. So let's think about this scenario here. They had a small window where they had more workers, but they weren't mining as efficiently as my workers were. So that higher drone count for that small window wasn't super beneficial for them. And then now, my third base is done. Their third base is like barely underway, about 20 to 25% done. So I'm gonna have a huge like gold base mineral income from here that's gonna accrue value before they even saturate their blue base with workers. So this is a massive advantage. I'm behind in upgrades, like I'm starting +2 attack, and they're starting +2 and finishing +1. So it's true that Roach for Roach, they're gonna be trading better, which is why I avoid this fight. I'm not ready to fight right now. A good time for me will be right as +2 finishes. Right here, they have 1-1. So I knocked this base down, which increased my larva advantage. I have larva from this hatch injected, which I'm a little bit late on the inject. This hatch has a queen injecting it, and then I'm sending another queen over here to inject this hatch. So I have 3 hatches of larva income that can potentially be injected. That's an edge. I have income as an advantage, which is another edge. This base is almost optimally saturated. And I have the roach speed advantage, which means that I can attack to places and retreat basically unpunished. Since their lair was so late, what's their roach speed progress? Their roach speed isn't even halfway done yet, so I could just come over here, bonk the hatch, pull back, and that extends my advantage of having workers mining here for much, much longer. Like I went from being slightly ahead to super ahead, economically speaking. By the roach count, they're ahead of me right now, but they can't leverage that advantage because they don't have roach speed. By the time they got to my side of the map, I would have more roaches. Cool. So I load this Overlord with 4 roaches. By doing this, I'm aware that I don't have my full roach strength on the front line, so I'm not too keen on taking a fight on the opponent's side of the map. And I don't have +2 attack. So I kind of just poke at their army, and then I run home because I have the roach speed advantage, and then send this Overlord over into their base to deal some indirect damage. Sun Tzu said the direct and indirect form a complementary whole. It's much more difficult to deal with an opponent who's pressing you with small forces and a large force. So this is my large force, this is my small force. By killing this queen, I increase my larva advantage by even more than it was before. I had 3 hatches that were injected long before the opponent did. I have a macro hatch on the way, and I'm killing this queen, and she won't be able to inject this hatch anymore. That's another huge edge that I'm taking. So I poke their army, but I don't commit to a trade because I already dealt the damage that I needed to deal from this drop. And then I move the pressure over here. I'm not microing this drop super precisely, like I should pick this up again. This is a really good scenario too. So I have 4 roaches against 10 roaches. This is a huge overcommitment in terms of defense. This base isn't saturated correctly and it's mining out. These queens aren't getting good value. Only one of these queens can inject the base at a time. They should have another queen over here injecting this base, or injecting this base. The drone lead very obviously favors me. 50 drones versus 42, with a gold base, which these drones are making even more income than they would at a blue base, and their 42 drones aren't even mining optimally. This base was oversaturated for a long time, this base is oversaturated, and this base isn't even saturated at all. And this opponent called me a fucking hacker. Like, this is probably the most childish response they could have to being outplayed. In a mirror matchup, be very aware of who has what edge. Larva advantage, upgrade advantage, the roach lead. direct and indirect forces, composition, so I go into Hydra after this, which gives my army a lot more DPS. Lings are threatening this base, so by the Lings poking in, they didn't really deal any damage to this base, but it did tip me off that they're subtracting some of their roaches to defend this base. It also told me that they don't have gases at this base, and I have gases at my third base that are mining, and at all my other bases. Take some goddamn responsibility when you get outplayed. Like, it's a refreshing thing, and it's one of the important things about playing people who can teach you lessons about where you fell behind. I've had lots of Zerg games against players who beat me almost every game, and each experience can teach you a lesson about what you can be doing better and what edges they used against you. There's a really poor sense of entitlement for Zerg players, or really any player, who thinks that if they have an upgrade lead, they deserve to win the main fight. That's blatantly false. You have to think about position. Where on the map is the engagement taking place? If the engagement is on my side of the map, yes, it's true that they have an upgrade advantage against me, but my reinforcements are going to be much, much closer than theirs are, and I'm about to have Hydra, which is going to make my composition better. It's also noteworthy how many Hydras I made. I made about 4 to 5 Hydras? Yeah, 4 Hydras. So this isn't an overcommitment. I can defend 4 Hydras. I can't really attack with these Hydras before the speed upgrade is done, but I have tons of Roach buffer, so these Hydras are going to get lots of DPS work in, and they push back Overlords that are kind of on my side of the map. They're starting their 4th base, I'm starting my 4th base, but this base doesn't even have gases yet. In addition, they're floating 726 gas. Where could this go? They could make more Ravagers in their composition, they could have taken their own Hydra transition, they could have maybe gone for Infestor, they could have done some drops, they could have done Tunnel Claws, so their plan wasn't even very good for their saturation. They have 4 gases, but they're just making pure Roach. 4 gases, you should have a little bit of something else, like maybe some Ravagers, maybe some Hydras, something else. Focus on your spending. Think about how much economy you're taking and what you want to accomplish with that. Cool. I think I'll probably highlight